still trying to figure that out, what I want to do for sure.
Yeah. Any thoughts there so far in terms of what direction you might want to go in?
Well, this first mailer I sent was for rural infill, but I am kind of leaning towards rural recreational. But so that's where I'm at right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really anything but infill for the most part, you'll be fine. Plenty of guys in the program that specialize in rural infill. Two good guys to talk to would be Chris Bull and Mike Bull. That's pretty much their bread and butter. What's up, Femi?
Hey, Sumner, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Awesome. Good to be in here.
Yeah, happy to have you on, man. I haven't seen you on one of these calls, so happy to have you with it.
Yeah, no, man, I've been missing them. I've been missing them like every other week. So yeah, I thought the last one was at 1, and it was at 4. And the other one was at 4, and it was at 1. It was just
yeah. 4 p.m. Mondays, 12:30 p.m. Wednesdays.
Awesome. Now that I know the schedule, I'll make sure to be on here.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike, to answer your question, I think that anything but infill, good to go. And let the data kind of whisper to you. The data will tell you, right? Like if you're in a good market, infill could still make sense. You'll just kind of have to go through the data and see what's popping out. What's up, Colton?
Yo, what's going on, guys?
This guy's going from a bachelor to married. We all need to take a moment. Oh, can I say that? I'm sorry. I don't know if she's
headphones on. I was already prepared for somebody to say something, but yeah, not a good time to chat about that.
No, we'll keep it hush hush. But nonetheless, I'm excited for you, man. That's super awesome.
I appreciate it, dude. It's very, very exciting times.
How's the snow been treating you?
It's good. We got absolutely dumped on today. It's just been nonstop. So I didn't get out and board yesterday. I did the last 2 days, and then we'll go out again tomorrow. But yeah, it should be pretty great tomorrow. Ton of new fresh snow.
How are those legs feeling? You getting sore?
They're good, man. They're good. We're ready to roll.
It's a lot of snowboarding. It looks good though. The conditions look insane.
Yeah.
Guys, we've got a really cool interview that we just put on today with a Leah member that's going on the channel. Should be end of this week. This guy did a deal. One of his first deals. He picked this up from a yellow letter, a postcard. It was a buy for 110 grand, sell for 450,000 bucks. So if you need a little Monday motivation, that's a good kick in the pants right there. That is one heck of a deal. But yeah, guys, you know how these calls go. This is going to be this is your guys' time. So any questions, deal reviews? I know, Greg, we got a deal that we're going to pop into and review. But for starters, anything you guys want to discuss here in terms of questions? Quiet group. Come on, guys. What, you guys have got it all figured out or what?
I mean, I have that question. It's more particular, just that I texted you about a little bit ago. Just as far as like the transition in between handling all my own acquisitions and the acquisitions manager, would you have any suggestions as far as what to put on my offer letters here? Just because typically it's going right now, obviously, directly to me. We're going to get the acquisitions manager set up, and she'll be ready to go. We're hoping within the next couple of weeks here, so everything will be funneling into her. What's a good method to transition that? Where should I be having just a separate phone number set up and put all of that on my offer letters so that she can just take that over, as opposed to the Google Voice, like do it all through the follow-up boss number?
Yeah, good question. So for your letter, what you really should have is Pat Live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the first touch. Now, when it comes to using your acquisition manager's name, so Marianne in this case, I do like the idea of keeping your marketing congruent, so having her name on the letter. Now, if you're using a blind offer, there's a purchase agreement attached. You got to keep your name on it. Mm-hmm. Range offer, neutral letter, you can have her name on it. All text that we send out is cold text. That always has our acquisition manager's name on it as well. So I think congruency is important here. But in terms of phone number, should be Pat Live's number. If you're going to opt against Pat Live, then definitely put her phone number. There's so many reasons as to why you should be using Pat Live and not her for the first touch that I would really encourage using Pat Live. Mm-hmm. Now, email on the letter, going to put her email on the letter. And so, yeah, you really want everything to filter straight to her. You do not want to be the bottleneck there in any way. So email, what we do is we have a global inbox, just sell at the Land Pioneer. So I like having a global inbox so my intake manager can see it, she can see it, I can see it. But that's her responsibility. Everything that comes in there is under her. So yeah, that's the route I would go. Are you going the route with getting set up on Follow Up Boss, or not Follow Up Boss? Sorry, Pat Live rather.
Pat Live I don't have set up. I know we've discussed that, and that will be something that I'll put on. I guess just the main question was just this in between period. I know what the plan is overall. It's just, I guess I could set up all this stuff for the acquisitions manager to take over once she's in, but in the meantime, I want to just set that up and put that on there, even if maybe the first couple calls she won't be the main point of contact.
Yeah, so you've got mailers coming out this week. I know you're trying to hit 3,000 mailers this week. I mean, there's no lag time with Pat Live, like maybe a day of downtime. I would get that set up sooner rather than later. So I would get Pat Live squared away and just get that on there. By that time that mailer touches down, you'll have the phone number already set up. I don't think there's any good reason to wait on Pat Live because Marion will be live in your business this month. You've got 3,000 pieces of mail going out. Might as well get that squared away. If you're not going to go that route, then I would put it on a Follow Up Boss phone number and it'll round robin you. And so if she's not in, you can still take that call. But I would just get squared away with Pat Live.
Okay.
If you're going to be dumping money into the marketing, like let's just make sure that you got that down pat. And she's starting this month. So yeah, there should be.
Live is the phone number and then the email address, just that generalized email address
inbox.
Just take over.
Yeah. Do you have a Google Workspace link to your domain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you should be able to spin out just a new address. I think it might be like $6 extra a month or something like that. Call it sell at fill in the blank land company. And then what you can do is you can make it a global inbox. You can also create forwarding settings. So it'll forward to you if you want to get those messages. And then inside there, just tag all the messages that come in. So any message that comes in from Pat Live will get a Pat Live tag. And then that way inside the inbox, you can just have little filters and they can just click on it and just streamline it.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So just set it all up in advance and then just have accounts that she can then take over whenever it is that we get her fully plugged in.
Yeah, so set up in advance. The Pat Live lag time, I mean, both those will take you a day to get squared away. Pat Live will probably take an additional day to go live, but there should be very little.
There's going to be several weeks anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so you got plenty of time by the time the mail touches down. You just want to make sure that you get Pat Live set up this week so you can get that phone number. I think on the first call you'll have with our account manager, they'll give you a phone number.
Okay.
And you can just set up the area code that you want, 858 or wherever you want to place it. And then just so you guys know, with Pat Live, we have our script already uploaded in there. So if you guys go through I think you have to call the number that's provided. They don't have a website that you can use that streamlines it to you. But if you go to our account manager, they already have our script in there and they give you guys the discounted pricing. So you guys can get your foot in the door. I think with our price point, it's $299 a month is the lowest platform. I typically don't advocate getting Pat Live until you've got 1 or 2 mailers that have already been sent out, and then you start consistently getting the mail dripped out. So it's not something you need to set up for you, Mike, for example, first month. Most people in the program usually get it in 60 to 90 days into the program. Again, just kind of following our cadence. First campaign should be out in the 4th week. Then 8 weeks in, leads are starting to come in. You're going to keep on mailing at that point. You'll have a pretty good read, a good pulse on how much inbound interest is coming in. It'll kind of tell you what plan you need to go on. And then, get squared away 2 to 3 months in. Yeah.
Sweet. Appreciate it.
Good question, Cole. And how's business been for everyone over the last, week or so since we've been to January? You guys been seeing anything out there? I feel like this month is kind of like the canary in the coal mine in terms of telling us how 2023 is going to be or how the next quarter is going to be. On our end, we've had a pretty strong start to the month, better than December was for sure. Don't know if you guys have been seeing a bit of the same.
Yeah, we did around 55 top line last month.
Nice.
I was expecting a little bit more, but just some deals didn't close. And hopefully they'll close this month. And these last couple weeks have actually been really, really slow. So I was going to ask you a question about that actually. Like we're trying to get our acquisitions manager and all that stuff together as well.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about hiring an actual acquisitions manager and a assistant in congruency, so that way, they're able to handle title work and all that other stuff that the assistant is. So I wanted to ask you about that too, just to see how how you go about doing that, all that stuff.
Yeah. Walk me through what would the assistant's role be?
So basically preparing leads for the acquisition manager. So that way, like, I can train them to just literally be on the phone and handle sales all day. And then the assistant, I mean, obviously it's a lower value thing. They just handle intake of leads, open escrow, maybe send contracts. I'm just trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to do that. So that way, the acquisition manager isn't constantly like doing intake or doing things like that, to where it's like, their highest value skill is just getting things under contract and closing deals.
Yep.
As opposed to.
Totally in agreement with you. I think that specialization for all of our roles is paramount. The one role that wouldn't be that would be like your generalist VA or your COO, but everything else should be super streamlined. We always got to ask ourselves, what's the highest and best use of this person's time? Acquisition manager is building rapport, following up, talking to sellers. So the way we divvy it up in our business, acquisition manager, and we've got an intake manager, could call it a lead qualifier, acquisition assistant, whatever you want to call it. In the program, we call it intake manager. So when we get a new lead that comes in through email, Pat Live, letter comes to us, whatever it may be, the intake is doing the first touch. They're going to send out the first email and the first text. We're really big on that first correspondence. It's got to be within 5 minutes or less. That's going to give us a little bit of breathing room because, hey, we're confirming receipt. We're letting the person know that we're here, we're active. That gives us some time for the acquisition manager to go through and call them. Ideally within 30 minutes or less is what we shoot for. You don't want to have a lapse of time in between though. So they're going to do the first touch, text, email, if we have the phone number. And then they're going to go through and do due diligence, just like your classic floodplain, access, title, topography, like just the basics. And then what they're going to do is they're going to go to Redfin and they're going to follow our comping process, aggregate all the comps. Now, they're not going to say it should be a X, Y, and Z offer, or this is what it's worth. They're just getting all the raw material into our CRM. Now, our acquisition manager steps into that record in our CRM and says, boom, 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 boom. These are the most recent comps within proximity that kind of fit our comping criteria. Now our acquisition manager is making a call and saying it's worth between 50 and 60. We want to buy between X, Y, and Z, right? And really, like, our process on that first call, if you look at any kind of sales function out there, the way calls are typically structured is you have a setter and you have a closer. Now, you could divvy up these roles. We just keep it under one acquisition manager, but that first call would be like a setter call. They're calling, they're qualifying. A lot of cases, we're not even going to pitch a price. What we're trying to do is fact find and figure out, why are they selling? Why did they reach out to our random letter? So then we can come to a conclusion of what we want, what we can offer. Now, we have our acquisition manager still create a range internally, but we don't want to pitch that on the first call. We want to suss out, is there like real urgency here? Are they in dire straits and they need the money? If they are, and we pitch our range too early, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. So that's that intro call. Once they get off, they're prepping the notes. They're setting up a next step for follow-up, and that's really it. One thing to note too is our intake manager, because we have a lot of leads coming in every day, and by a lot, I mean maybe 10 to 20, which isn't a ton, but it does become a lot of moving parts for your team. Our intake manager is also setting tasks for our acquisition manager. So we use tasks within Follow Up Boss. We like literally live and die by them. So they're setting all those tasks. So an intake manager is doing the facts finding or the due diligence, if you will. They don't do deep title work, but they'll check to make sure that point of contact is the person on title. Then they'll go through and put the comps in our CRM, set the follow-up task, and they'll do that first touch via text and email. Rest is going to be acquisition manager. So an intake manager, we hire those overseas. Price point is going to be $4 to $7 an hour, somewhere in that territory. It's a pretty low-end role. We do give them some kind of incentive. We just do a quarterly comp plan. So like the max they would make would be $500 a quarter. That's just if we hit our company goals, just like how we do our acquisition manager, just a 3-tiered structure. And then acquisition manager, as you guys know, overseas, 10 to $12, give or take. Femi, does that answer your question roughly?
Yeah. So just so you kind of know what's going on, we have an intake manager right now, but that person also handles things with brokers, getting showings on properties, getting a broker to walk the property. They handle comps, all that stuff. Now, the first contact, right now I'm handling that. So usually what it'll be is like a lead comes in, intake manager handles intake on that. So within 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is, I'm calling them, reaching out. But by the time I get on the phone, I already know what we need to offer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, but what we don't do is send the text and the email. So that's interesting. The other thing though that I think about is if they're talking to Pat Live, I wonder if that kind of counts as like the first contact with our company, because they know, okay, at least they answered the phone, at least they're real, at least they took me through these questions. That's kind of what I think about too. Like when you said that, like,
Yeah,
do you think that makes a difference, or?
it helps. I think that Pat Live is it's super beautiful. I mean, it's very, very beneficial that they get someone immediately. One thing that we see come up, and it makes sense from the seller's perspective, is they get on this call with Pat Live and they're like, why the hell can I not get a firm answer on what I'm going to be offered, right? And so what we want to do is that first text and email says, hey, we're going to review your property and then we're going to come up with a firm number. I think people feel like they're getting, like, for lack of a better word, just dicked around if you're like, they're talking to these people and they're not getting a real answer. And so we want to confirm that with them. We also just, I think being expedient in our communication goes a long way for keeping these people engaged. You guys have all probably experienced that have been doing deals for a while. Sometimes people just fall off the face of the earth. And that's a very expensive problem to have in your business. So that speed to lead is paramount. Most people that get off the call with Pat Live are satisfied. I would say 10% of the people that do get off the call are not satisfied. So us being in touch with them quickly and telling them the next step and being really transparent about our process, I think helps revive those people that are a little bit peeved. And you can see it in the follow-up or the notes from Pat Live, or even listening to the call recordings. Sometimes you'll hear people just barking, like, what is the offer? Like if you gave them a range, or even if it's a blind offer and they want to know next steps and the person's not deviating from the script, that can really peeve people. So I think it's important. But yes, technically Pat Live is the first touch, and that's why Pat Live is so beneficial. They'll never miss a call. I would say it's not a perfect customer experience though. So us coming in quickly and walking them through the next step is important. The other thing with the text and email that we've noticed from the first text and email, we have a higher likelihood of getting them on the phone. A lot of times when they get a random number calling them, they just don't pick up. But if we texted and emailed and forewarned them, hey, we're calling from X, Y, and Z number, that helps as well. So
How do you,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
my last question, how do you track leads to where it's like, because, you know, we get leads from mail, email, it's not just calls.
Yeah.
So like, how do you just have someone monitoring that and then they put it in the CRM? Because that's what we do now. I just wonder if there's anything else that you do.
Yeah. So we've got, like I said, we got the global inbox for all acquisition stuff. So any email that comes in there gets hit. There's like 4 people that have access to that email. So there's eyes on it really quickly. Any text lead gets popped into our Slack group, and our intake manager adds to the CRM. And then Pat Live, obviously. So what we do is the intake manager, why they set that first task is a lot of times our acquisition managers in the trenches on the phone. They're not the one looking at that inbox. And so our intake manager will be searching, looking for these leads, put them into our CRM, and then set a task. And that task will notify our acquisition manager, boom, there's a new lead. This is what you have to do next. And we've noticed there's a lot of slippage if you don't have that notification being sent to the acquisition manager. And the acquisition manager is on the phone all day with people. They should not be scrubbing through an email, making sure they didn't miss anything from new leads. I think that this is your Batman and Robin in this business. And to get these two people working in coordination with one another is like perfect harmony, and it pays dividends. But if you have a sloppy system here, it'll cause a lot of pain, and there's just going to be stuff that gets missed. Yeah. Anyone got any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess just to piggyback on that. So just as far as Pat Live goes, the real benefit there is simply you get somebody that's going to answer the phone. They're not going to miss any calls. You get somebody immediately on the phone. They're not really answering any questions or deviate. They're going through a script. They're just trying to pull or go through a questionnaire and get those questions answered, pass that on to the intake manager. And that is the real benefit, is just strictly somebody that's going to answer the phone, guaranteed.
Yeah. The real benefit of having that immediate first touch. Now there's an argument of, well, you could have someone on your team that would probably do a better job than what they do, but the cost is insurmountable. The cost is crazy. What's nice about their service is it's an on-demand type thing. It's like a line of credit. You only get billed when you use it type thing. Just having someone idle on your team, I think they could do a better job because they can bend and mold to the conversation where they're so binary. It's like follow the script, don't deviate. but the cost would be crazy, right? Like for us, I think we typically are like $800 a month for Pat Live. The biggest month has been like 1,200, and to get someone here in the U.S. with perfect English, which wouldn't be possible to someone full time to do that. They also work nights, weekends, holidays, so they fill the hours that otherwise wouldn't be filled.
But it is on a credit-based system, like it rolls over if you don't use it, or it's still that monthly minimum.
That's a good question. I think it's like data tree where it doesn't roll over, but you'll typically hit your quota, whatever it is, right? The real like cost comes from the additional minutes that rack up. I don't think it rolls
Okay.
over.
It's a monthly thing, and then if you have a certain amount of minutes above whatever, they'll charge you extra. But like regardless, if you get no calls, and it's still going to be that set amount.
Yeah, there's like a
Okay.
cost, like data tree. I think it's a pretty similar model, and we're always above our set, but we're not at the threshold where it makes sense to bump up to the next plan. So we're kind of in that weird gray area.
Can you at any time pretty easily just like upgrade the plan like anything else? You can, locked into
Yeah, you don't
12-month contract.
you don't get locked in, to my understanding, so you can bump up. Just same thing with it's actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this is identical to data tree. If you start realizing, whoa, I'm paying per minute at a higher rate than I should, and we're at the next step, you can just bump up.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Anyone got anything additional as it pertains to data tree? Jesus, not data tree.
Just on that, they actually answer a lot of calls from us on Christmas Eve, which I mean we didn't expect to get calls on Christmas Eve, but like that, say someone that called on Christmas Day, I'm not going to answer that call, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they still answer it. So that's what's pretty cool about it, also.
Yeah, it's super valuable. I mean, they literally do not miss. And the reality is that like if I had one person fielding these calls on my team that's full time, there are going to be many times a month that they're on a call and they miss a call that's coming in. This will just round robin to whoever's available. So they literally do not miss. It's a pretty impressive system they put together. And like the cost is so low for what you get. It made a really big difference to our business, I think, just in terms of customer experience, but also just not for having that slippage, things getting missed. And for a long time, I was the guy taking those first calls, and that has a whole slew of problems because it's like I'm deep working on a mailer, then I get this call, then I get derailed, and yeah.
Do they respond as if they're an employee of your business?
Yeah. So in the script that we use, we have them, blah, 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 I'm a representative from fill in the blank land company. And then just follow that strict. Yeah. So pretty much every person that we've spoken to that's a seller that's talked about the experience with Pat Live with us, which hasn't been everyone that we worked with, obviously, but it does come up from time to time. The overwhelming response is, wow, your secretary is so nice. That comes up a lot. So they just think it's someone that works internally for us, and they kind of play the card of like, I don't have authority to give you a comp because I'm the representative, blah blah blah.
You ever have any concerns or thoughts just about any sort of liability of any of these acquisitions managers or anybody that you're contracting out representing your company and not really being an employee?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it definitely opens you up to risk just having employees on your team working on your behalf. I don't lose sleep over it, but we have a rule in our business. Anything under 50K, they can make the offer without any approval from us. And so I've often wondered, like, God, are they just going to make horrible offers? So of course, we have an out in our contract, but believe it or not, we've canceled contracts, but it's typically not because the price is wrong. It's usually the price looks good, then we find out something materially wrong with property, and that warrants a price reduction. Drop the contract. But no, I mean, other than buying bad deals, I mean, what would the other liability be, you think?
I don't know. I guess just like something that they're representing, or maybe giving them incorrect information, or I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a great example off the top of my head, just as far as, people get trigger happy with any sort of lawsuits. You never know what people can come up with. And so, I mean, it is technically somebody representing your company that's not a part of your company.
So, I mean, I don't know. The people that work with us that are overseas, I would think you could safely say they are a part of our company. yeah, they're not here in the US, but they very much function like an employee would. Pat Live, not so much. I feel like there's actually more liability on the dispo side than acquisitions. There's not much you can really get wrong on the acquisitions other than just a crappy acquisition, but still going to get spot checked before it gets sent to title, and just have a rock solid contract that lets you walk out of the deal if you have to. On the dispo side, I think there is substantially more risk of misrepresenting properties. We had one lawsuit scare last year where, I mean, the guy was a maniac, but he drove out to the property. Allegedly, my dispo manager gave him bad directions. There's only one road to get to the property, but the directions were so bad that he nearly totaled his car and hit a rock or something like that and was going to sue us for it. But that's like a joke, right? There's only one road to get there. You got to take some level of accountability. You should have mapped the property yourself. I mean, those people are just helpless. But I think in those situations, I have had concern, especially when I brought on my first disposition manager. It's kind of been peeled back for me. Something I think about really never nowadays, but of my team misrepresenting properties. That has been a concern. What I've found, though, is my disposition manager, as she's been scaled up, is more thorough than I am. She knows more about these properties than I do. She's like, Sumner, there's this pipeline easement on the back quarter of the property at this thing. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, but when you bring someone on and they're not new to this space, and someone's on a call and asks them a question about the property and they don't want to get it wrong, which we find that a lot with overseas hires, is that like they're yes men. They don't want to let you down. They don't want to let the client down. They want to look like they know what they're talking about. And they're usually too prideful to ask for help or say, I don't know. So we've had some situations where we've had to double back and be like, hey, you know what? I know that he or she said that this is true about the property, but it's not. That's ended up in a liability. I mean, if you do enough deals in this business, you probably are going to get sued at one point or the other. But I think if you're doing things on the up and up, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cost of doing business. I mean, if you're selling thousands of deals over your career, you're opening yourself up to a lot of liability. Certainly. I just don't think there's any way to remove that risk. It's the same thing with texting, right? If this is just a risk to reward balance, is the reward worth the exposure to risk that we have? I would say yes. So, yeah. But don't worry about that, man. I used to have this irrational fear. I would literally.
Oh, no, it's something that has popped in my head before. I was just curious your opinion on it, but no, it's not something I'm extremely concerned about.
I used to lose sleep. Literally, I have this irrational fear of being sued for years. Don't know why. I think partially because the land business was so good to me from the jump that it almost felt like I was doing something illegal. And maybe it was just like a deep-rooted insecurity. I don't know. But I lost a lot of sleep over it. A lot. And it pans out that it's all pretty much okay. Anyone got anything else they want to go through? If not, we'll run through and review Greg's deal. And if you guys have any other deals that you want to review, we can go through that together as well.
At some point, Sumner, I just want you to look at the property I've listed right now, just to look at the we can do that now, or I guess whenever we're done going over
I'll pop up Greg's deal in the chat. You mind putting the listing in there?
Sure. Yep.
Sweet. All right, Greg, I'm excited to look at this, man. Grimes County.
Guys, I gotta kick out early. We're about to head out and get dinner, but just want to seeing everybody. And
hey, good to see you all. Glad you got on here, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show, and we'll see you soon.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll take a lookies. Look at this deal. All right. Hey, Greg, would you mind giving us a little backstory on this deal? As much as you know.
Yeah, I'm headed to I just got home. I'm headed to my computer. You can hear me all right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a JV deal we got brought to us last week. We had another JV from the same guy, and it's just the comps that he's presenting and the comps that I'm coming up with are just way off. So
okay.
I'm not too familiar with. Sorry?
Is he coming up with the comps, or is he getting these from a realtor?
Yeah, he got them from a realtor, and he provided a little comp list, and I didn't see any numbers similar to those on like land.com or Zillow, and everything I was looking at was about like half the price. So our exit price would actually be his buy price. Just from what I'm looking at, and that's that's half the reason I'm here is we're trying not to be dumb money, but
yeah, I already see
know.
a couple things wrong. A couple things wrong with this deal that I don't like from the jump. And just to remind everyone here, the buy price is what, 150?
Yeah.
Okay, 150. County road here. County road here. I guess it's got an easement. Is that right?
I think there's an oil easement, pipeline easement in the back.
Okay. Pipeline is, there's definitely a road that someone's been using there. And there might be, it looks like there's a pipeline easement maybe running through here vertically on the property. Okay, first thing I don't love is, one, you're going to be kicked back away from the utilities. We're just going to assume the utilities are going to be on the road. You're going to be kicked back a little bit. So I don't love that just in terms of the logistics of developing this property. I don't like the easement road. It's not horrible. It doesn't look super long, but it's definitely less than ideal. I do not like that you have these huge industrial power lines right here. This has been a deal killer for us through and through. The noise that can come off these things is insane, and it's just not very nice to be around. That's a really easy one to bypass and just be like, oh, it's fine. Can definitely be a problem. Now, someone did develop here. It seems like people are living over here, but if we go and look at these properties, which are pretty much the same size, roughly it's about 5 acres. The estimate's 172 grand for this house, right? That's probably the use case for this is developing on it. It doesn't look like a great recreational property. So we have to assume this is probably what someone's going to do with it. None of these houses look very nice. You've got these power lines here. Access is funky. Utilities are going to be pulled back, and the comps don't even come close to adding up. So I think you're spot on in saying that it looks like it's worth what you guys are buying it for. We've got a 2 acre at 150. We've got the 7 acre at 261. That pegs you at 37 grand an acre. Ups you at 185 here. Oops. And let's see what the days on market on this one. So this one, county road frontage, small little pond in the back. This moved really quick. The 7th, under contract on the 21st of November. So definitely moved quick. Flat, kind of pastoral land. Looks like it is fenced as well, which, believe it or not, actually adds a good amount of value. And it doesn't have those big, nasty power lines on it. I saw another comp here. If I zoom out a hair, might be this one. Yeah, 7 acres at 175. This one's wooded. Looks relatively similar. I think this is multiple small lots put together, or they have the wrong lot there. Yep, looks like this is a couple lots put together. This looks like it might be in a subdivision. Let's see the dates on market on this one. September 28th. Under contract October 10th. 175 divided by 7. It's at 25K an acre. All right, let's go look at what's actively listed. Let's go look at what our quote unquote competition is doing. This is looking back in 3 months. So definitely some volume out here over the last 90 days, which isn't terrible. I bet there's not a ton of supply. So 22 homes actively listed or properties listed, 7 homes or properties turning over in 3 months. All right, we'll go price low to high. Lot of sub 1 acre lots. We got an 8 at 299. I don't know. He might be getting his numbers from that. But he got some bigger properties. Yeah, I think this property, in my guesstimation, would be worth $125 to maybe $150. Be curious. Obviously, we can't get the comp on this one, but I'd be curious what this sold for. It looks like it's not coming up on Redfin. If we go and click on this, let's go see what the assessed value is on this. Yeah, assessed at 55. Not that that means a whole lot. It is qualified for ag, so you could get the property tax lower. That is a value add in Texas. People love the properties that you can qualify as ag because you can get their property taxes reduced. This guy lives in Texas as well, and he bought this in 2005. Actually, he went to Madison Trenonsky. I don't know. Yeah, it's not showing his deed on there. But yeah, I would peg this at like $125, maybe on a good day, 150. I think that probably takes 120, 150 days to turn at 150. This is, I'm telling you, these power lines are such a deal breaker. The pipeline easement too, I don't know what the story is with that. I just had a property in Texas that we found out had a pipeline easement on it, and it crushed the value of it. I mean, it was super hard to move. We ended up having to sell it via owner financing. Total sales price was pretty high, but the actual down payment was super duper low. So on a small property like this, having that pipeline easement on it chews up a lot of the usable space and can create problems for people. So I don't like that as well. So yeah, all in all, definitely not at that price. And honestly, even if this was at 50K, I would be gun shy, especially as a funding opportunity. There's just too many other good opportunities out there. I don't think this is it. I would also grill this guy. I mean, if you're going to keep on working with him, I would grill him about how he's coming up with those numbers.
We get a lot of well, maybe not a lot, but this is we haven't done any deals with them, so that's an immediate red flag for us. So yeah. I think we see a lot of people that are disguised wholesalers trying to present something that isn't what it is, and
yeah,
we've fallen for it before, but it's been a while. Thank you for confirming my suspicions.
Yeah,
I don't know how he's so far off.
You were spot on. I think my only guess is that either he got a crappy realtor opinion and the guy didn't even look at the property, just said, oh, 5 acres in this area is worth X. Or they're looking at that 7 acre, it's listed at 290, but that's not even like a close comp necessarily. So yeah, glad we were able to spot that one. Mike, I'm going to look at this listing of yours here and we'll go and do a deep dive on this.
All right. I have a deal review too, if you want to.
Yes, sir. Yeah, pop that in the deal review section in Discord, and we'll get to that.
Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah, so it's like, I know it's really, especially after watching your videos, I know like all the pictures are horrible, and I tried bringing that up to her, and I really need advice on like how to better communicate with her, I guess, because I'm trying to like communicate with her, and everything's real difficult. But yeah,
I'm gonna be brutally honest here, and I hope you don't mind.
No, dude, absolutely.
Yeah. And this isn't you, right? You're using this realtor. So full disclosure, this isn't Mike's listing. This is a realtor that did this. This is a fucked up listing.
Yeah,
These are the kinds of people that we just wax all day long. This is why we're able to move our properties in a timely fashion. Something like this could be on the market for 5 years. No joke. Mm-hmm. You got a couple of things working against you here. One, in Belen, New Mexico, I've sold land out here. There is so much supply. Like, you will get stuff to the bottom of search results really quickly. So that first cover photo has got to be eye candy. It's got to be super catchy. What I used to do, and hopefully no one's listening to this because I don't think this is legal. I used to just go and like steal photos or use Google Images, and I just find a photo from out there, or I would just go to like stock images and just grab a picture of like a desert square and toss it out as the first image. I think if you're using a free website like Pixabay or Pexels, you can get images that you can use on there. Now, it's not fully transparent, not really showing the property, and we have like a little quip at the bottom of the listing saying not all photos are from the property. The trouble is you're already using this realtor, right? It's tough. You have no leverage at this point. It's really tough to negotiate with her and try to get her to do her job. What she should have done is gone out and taken photos of the property, right?
Yeah.
That's like one of the main reasons you're paying her. She didn't do that. She just did screen grabs. I take it. Are you MS Partners LLC?
No, I'm a Petrula Land. MS Partners is the guy I bought it from.
Yeah, and just that in itself is just such a stupid mistake on her part.
Yeah.
Like, get this box unhighlighted. Okay, you're showing the old owner's information. That's just kind of silly in itself. These images don't do anything here, right? This does not help. No. You don't want to be showing this. This shows, actually doesn't show the assessed value, which is good. Because the assessed value of these properties is super low. The other thing, what is she thinking with the pricing? This should be $7,900, not $8,000 even. That's just a horrible number to be using. So I would change the price point. you definitely need a better cover image for sure. Just that alone will make a big difference for the click-through rate.
Should I just ask her to take pictures, or like?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be a stickler. I'd say I need 25 photos, boots on the ground at this property, and I need a better cover image. Now, again, you've got no leverage in the situation because you already signed a year-long contract with her, so that's tough. Now, if she's not willing to play ball, go to Pexels or go and hire a photographer to go out and take pictures of this property.
Okay.
It'll be worth the $100-200 that you spend. It'll make a substantial difference for how quickly you're able to move this. Next issue is the listing description. What does this mean? Wide open space with freedom all around. It's like, this does not tell us anything. So you need, we'll go look at one of our listings, right? Oh, damn it. Our website's down. Someone's editing the photos. Let me just go to land.com. Trying to think of a good photo here. Okay. Or a good listing. So we always do like a lead magnet to get them to opt in. Even if you're using Zillow or whatever platform, give them a reason to reach out to you, right? So we need some kind of like lead magnet to get them to click over and give us their information. You want to have a paragraph or two that's painting this beautiful picture of what they could do with the property. Then you get down to brass tacks. You talk about all the pragmatic details about the property, because what's going to happen is people are going to reach out to her to ask her what's the coordinates, and she's probably not going to know or going to be too busy to do it and not do it. So we want that information in the listing. Or if you were running point in this listing and didn't have a realtor, you wouldn't want to answer those silly questions that are going to come up. You just want to answer them all in the listing. Thing about the listing is not only being compelling to paint this picture and motivate them to reach out to you, but it's also like answering their objections or their questions. You're getting over a lot of the basic questions that are going to come up and just waste your time or waste her time. And ultimately, she's probably not even going to answer these questions. The next thing is the demographic of people that want to own land in Bella, New Mexico are the guys and gals that want to put $99 a month down and pay $99 a month. So you got to have owner financing on this. This will take a dog's age to sell. The other thing is that people that are looking to buy land in Bella, New Mexico are typically not looking on the MLS, Zillow, Redfin. They're looking on Facebook. You can make a YouTube video on this. You can make a TikTok video. Like, you're trying to get just to like the Joe Schmo regular guy who just wants to own land for $99 down and $99 a month. There's very little intent-based search volume in a place like Bella, New Mexico, because frankly, there's just nothing very exciting about land out here. It has very little intrinsic value, and there's a ginormous supply. You can see how many lots there are out here.
Yeah.
The best way to move these entry-level properties is to first-time land buyers that know nothing about the land. Because if someone knew about Bella, New Mexico, they would know they don't want to own land out there.
Yeah.
Place. And the next thing is, like I said, I think the price point is off. Oh, we're looking at for rent. The price point is off. Well, let's go for sale. The price point is off, and even if she was going to do $7,900, it's still too expensive. So look at what everyone's doing out here. It's like all the same crap. It's all these GIS cover images, right? So you just get lost in the sea, and there's 5 pages of this stuff. Now, if we go, yours is actually, let's just do this: land for sale in New Mexico. Let's go to like land.com. I think $8,000 for a 2-acre lot is too expensive. Okay, we got 5 at 6, 1 at 1,500. Yeah, I mean, $1,000 an acre, $1,500 an acre. What'd you buy this for again?
$2,000.
$2,000. Yeah, you could probably move it. I would do like 3,900 or $299 down and $150 a month or something like that. I mean, it's not going to be a great deal, but I would rather you move this, get some cash in your pocket, get a win, and
definitely.
It's not going to be a deal that puts a lot of cash in your pocket.
But I won't be able to owner finance it with the realtor, right?
You can. A couple things. If you do the owner financing route, did you buy this through a title company?
No.
Okay. So yeah, talk to her. Usually if you do owner financing with a realtor, they're typically going to want to use a title company, which means they're going to want to use a deed of trust, not a contract for deed. We would want to use a contract for deed on this because the likelihood that someone defaults on this is about 80%. Like it's such a high likelihood of the default. If you go deed of trust, now you're gonna have to foreclose on them because they hold title with the county. That's a real pain in the ass. So talk to her and be like, hey, I think this property needs owner financing. I would like to do it through a contract for deed. If I get a buyer in, you're probably gonna have to pay our flat commission.
Okay.
I wouldn't do a percentage of the total sales price. And unfortunately, the flat commission is probably gonna be more than you get in the down payment. But that's okay. You're gonna get some cash flow coming in. You're gonna win under your belt. And like I said, this will default. And so you'll get the property back. You'll relist it, probably default again, and so on and so forth. Some of these properties that we have that are akin to this one have defaulted 7-8 times. Like they're really hard to get someone to stick with these lots because these people live in a different state. They never owned land before. They have never gone to the property. They know nothing about the property. It was just a random late night type purchase, right? That's really who you're trying to appeal to here. So even a website like land.com, you will get buyers that come on here. They're never going to search, pretty much never going to search Bell in New Mexico. What they will do is they'll say, hey, I want to own land in New Mexico. And this is how people search. You go to New Mexico and they go, I want to own a property between $1,000 and $3,000. And then you prop up. That's how you're going to catch them, right? But like an intent-based website like Zillow, Redfin, or any of those places, really hard to move. So what I would do on your own, make a TikTok video. I've sold dozens and dozens of these types of properties on TikTok. Make a little YouTube video, just screen recording your screen, talking about the property. Get it on Facebook. You will get a ton of leads on Facebook. Not a ton of great leads, but you will get leads. And just try to get this thing out of here. But I would reason with her, right? Hey, if we do owner financing, what's that going to look like? If I sell the property myself, what's that going to look like? And hey, you got to go take some pictures of this property too.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. I have seen this come out and play out far too many times.
Yeah.
But a good learning lesson. You know, for a
Absolutely.
property, you would never want to use a realtor. They're like a realtor that's taking on this listing is a red flag, right? Why is she taking on an $8,000 piece of vacant land in the middle of nowhere? Because she's got nothing better to do, and therefore she's a crappy realtor. Cool. Let's look at let's do your deal review. You put it in Discord.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was wondering how you even found a realtor for that.
There's a bunch. I called a few from in New Mexico, and there's like 4 of them that were gonna take it, but she was just the one that was like getting back to me the fastest, pretty much. So
gotcha.
From there.
Did we look at this one together previously? Or
no, this is a different one. I got this today. The guy
Am I
called me
doing
today.
something wrong here with the parcel number?
Yeah, I can give you the name too.
Yeah, let's do the name. Let's do the last name first.
In Discord or chat?
You can pop it in Discord. Is this from your previous campaign out here?
Yes.
Okay, Clinton.
Curtis Clinton.
Curtis Clinton. Sounds like a good old boy.
Curtis.
All right. And Lori's on title too?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Looks like this is in a subdivision. Do you know much about the subdivision?
The fee's $350 a year. The closest comp I could find sold in November for $22,000. It was like right down the block.
Okay.
And then there's also comps on Zillow that got 184 views in 9 saves in 28 days and 140 views and 6 saves in 33 days.
Okay. Is this the same subdivision that we had looked at previously? Whoa.
No, it's a different one.
Good Lord, this is some crazy topography. So here's just a good lesson on these 3D maps. You see how steep it makes this property look? You see how this house, it shows it like it's sloping on
Yeah.
side. That means that the way they're mapping this is incorrect. I find this a lot on the East Coast, so just something to be mindful of. Would get someone on the ground to go look at this.
There's drone photos of a property like right next to it, and I can see that property, and it looks good. So that's just one thing that.
Yeah, I would reckon the topography is not great, but it's definitely not as exaggerated as they're showing it here. Love the fact that you are not quite lakefront, but pretty damn close to it. Really cool.
Yeah.
That's going to photograph well. We've got a comp here, which 22, that's an acre. Yours is a little over an acre. What's the buy price on this?
So it was a neutral letter. So yeah. So
Okay, so they've got this pegged as being sold at 32, but on here it's showing 22. So I'm gonna go with 22 as the actual sold price. Wow, this is quite a story they got here. Listed in January of 2021 at $65,000. And they just stair-stepped it down until it sold in July for 22. Okay, so it all caught up on HOA dues and taxes?
yes. Yep.
Okay. And then do you know the CC&Rs or the restrictions within the HOA?
No, I'm having trouble getting on like the HOA's website, but that's something I still gotta look into better.
Yeah, you'll find that. That's a lot of these HOA websites are horrible.
Yeah.
If you can even find a website in general. Sometimes you'll find the CC&Rs uploaded as like a PDF just deep in the web. It does happen. What you could alternatively do is call one of the realtors that has a listing out there and just probe them for questions. So here's what I'm saying. This is an instant red flag to me that there's literally no development here. That tells me that this is not very desirable land. When I'm looking at these classic subdivisions with an HOA, I want to see that I'm the last lot on the block that hasn't been developed, right? I don't want to see that I'm one of many that have yet to be developed. The next thing we'll go here is we'll look at the value of the home. Definitely a little scary. That's 5,000 square feet. And that typically means that the HOA, and this is pulling up the wrong property, typically means that the HOA is going to have pretty crazy square footage requirements, which is not uncommon for these HOAs on the East Coast. Let's see what town this is. New Tazewell. All right, let's go. Where's New Tazewell? There we go. So yeah, I am not a fan of this kind of land in general, but the way we can make any deal a deal is by buying it at the right price. I would be super aggressive on this. And you can be. A lot of times these people bought it way back in the day. They typically have come to terms with the fact they've got a bad deal. They probably paid way too much for it. I don't know if they were the first owners. We've got a deal right now in North Carolina that we're buying for $1. That's worth 40 grand or so. In a subdivision, it's a very similar story to this. Crazy CC&Rs, super expensive. All right, let's look at price low to high. Got an acre at 14. It's kind of the back of the subdivision. 15. Okay, so let's look at close to the river. So this one is close to you. Is this one of the drone photos you were talking about?
Could be. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so at 30.
Or maybe not.
Oh, weird. These look just like photos I took at a different property in North Carolina. I almost thought someone stole the photos. It's weird. It looks identical. It's super strange. Let's look at stuff that's closer to the water is listed at 30. Doesn't mean it's actually selling at 30. There's not as much supply out here as I would have anticipated for how few of the lots are developed. So you got an acre at 19, which is pretty close to the water. 22, 39 for 3 acres. Yeah, something like this, I would probably list it like 17.9 or 19.9, somewhere in that range. I'd definitely be less than 20. And so for this deal to make sense, it's going to be a slow moving deal. It probably turns over in 90 to 120 days. Not really enough margin to bring on a partner unless you're buying it at $5 grand, 7,500. 7,500 kind of be like the line in the sand for me. Like this would have to be a pretty damn good deal for me to want to take it on. These lots with HOAs are just so hard to move, especially one that doesn't have a whole lot of demand. There's not a lot of development there, and there's a decent amount of supply. These have been some of the hardest properties to move that I've ever bought. And so I would have to get it at a pretty screaming deal to make it worth my while. Let's zoom out. Let's just look at how much supply there is. 26 properties. 26 properties, and let's see, in the last year, 15 have sold. Okay, not great. Yeah, I mean, definitely this would not meet our criteria of a market we would ever mail to, right? So I see this a lot with people that join the program and they already have deals in the pipeline or previous mailers in the pipeline, and they feel obligated to capture some value from their previous efforts. Sometimes the wisest decision you can make is just starting over. Just be like, that was a wash. It was a learning lesson. But still shoot your shot. See if you can get it at. I would start at 5 and kind of in your mind know you've got a band between 5 and 7,500.
Yeah.
Anytime we're pitching a price, especially an aggressive price, you got to walk them through how you got to that price. So be really clear about the topography, the HOA dues, the fact that there's no development, there's a lot of supply, yada yada yada. And I'm just totally candid with them. That's how you get deals at a dollar, you know. So yeah, I'll be curious to see how that pans out. Let me know what they say. Anyone else got deals they want reviewed here?
Actually, I have one.
Yeah.
This is one that we've had for almost a year now that we really need to offload.
Okay.
And I don't even know how to do this. Can I just send the listing link or how?
Yeah. Pop it in the chat in here.
So, all right. So just like a backstory while I'm trying to find this. This has been under contract 2 times. We bought this at 10 grand. The agent, honestly, at first she seemed really solid. And then once she kind of got it up, you know, she's like, oh, this is going to sell at 40 grand or whatever. And actually, I'll be honest with you, it's landlocked. But the initial plan was to get the easement, and I was already in contact with the neighbor to get that easement. And then obviously once we bought it, they stopped talking to us. So you know, that was kind of the issue. So we had it under contract at 20K at first. That was cash. I think there was contingent on financing. That person's bank didn't give them the cash. And then the second time we had under contract at 15 cash, no contingencies, supposed to close December 16th. You know, they just kind of went AWOL. Obviously there's legal action but we can't do that until we get this sold. And so the issue is with this agent specifically is like, you know, I'm trying to contact her or whatever. And you know, it's just difficult. So you can see the story. We started at rate 5. So
when does your contract expire with the agent?
It's just about a year, which, you know, in hindsight, right? Like we usually don't even like to engage for that long.
Yeah.
It's usually like 6 months because we want to get it done. But this is something that's like, you know, we bought this when we were a little bit more green. And today I wouldn't buy this. So
yeah. And what are you paying her in terms of a commission?
I don't even know. 3-4%. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I've got a somewhat similar deal to this. It's not landlocked, but we got a realtor on it. It's turned out to be a total dud. It's actually at a similar price point. Okay. The topography is just real crazy on it. And I don't think you have to take an L on this, but you probably have to get pretty close to it, right?
Yeah.
After title fees and paying her out, you might make a couple $100. The best thing you can do in a situation like this is just get out of the deal. And I don't know why that I struggle with this. It just kind of defies our natural urge. Just move on, right? Like the reality is, even though there's the whole thing with like having capital tied up and opportunity costs and all that stuff, there's more than anything, there's just a mental strain of having this baggage in your business, right? And so a couple things you can do that I think will help your case here. First off, you got to get lot lines on this. No one's even gonna know what they're looking at, right? This is like essentially a dense jungle.
Yeah.
So that'll help. Just being able to paint a little bit of a better picture. What websites do you guys have this listed on?
I think it's just on Zillow.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, again, like this is before a lot of our systems and infrastructure was in place. This is a time where we were just hustling, trying to make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, today we would have the lot lines, all that, but yeah, we'll get that going.
Yeah. I think that even though this was an older deal, it's not too late to kind of bring it into your system and get it freshened up. I would get this on other listings or listing platforms rather. If you've got access to land.com, something like this would do pretty well on there. With these stickler deals, I mean, I always get really aggressive with the cash price. So I mean, if you walk this down 13 grand or something like that, it's going to move. $1,000 an acre for land in the East Coast is absurd. People will gobble that up. The next thing that I would do is, I know you've already talked to the neighbor. I would send a neighbor letter and a neighbor text to any of the properties that touch this lot, or you could even do any of the properties within a mile radius. The best use case for this property is someone that's in proximity to it. Or you just buy it or sell it to someone that's kind of stupider than you, right? Like someone who's just like, land for $1,000 an acre in Tennessee, even though it's landlocked. I'll gobble that up. Or you stack owner financing terms on it and sell it that way as well. So yeah, I would bring the price down to a no-brainer price point, 12.5, 13, somewhere in that range. I would get lot lines on it. I would get this on every other listing platform that you guys utilize currently. I would beef up this listing description as well. And 194 days, 503. Sometimes what I'll do as well too with these. So when you do a price drop, it'll bump you back up on these listing sites. But a way to get more juice on it that I would ask her is, can we remove this and then relist it? That'll give you more eyes than really any other strategy. So I would freshen up the listing, change the price, ask her to delist it, then relist it. That'll also cut out this. Actually, no, I think on Zillow, it'll keep this backstory. That could actually be a red flag. Some people do look at this, and that's just one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, in a case like this, take the small win, a couple $100, or even a break even or a slight loss, and just get it out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, but I would do, and something that's been working pretty well for us is go on data tree, draw a polygon, like a mile radius around this property, pull that data, skip trace that data, text that data, mail that data with a neighbor letter. You're most likely going to find a buyer that way opposed to any other platform, unless the price is just so low. But with properties like this, the landlocked lots are so tough because people get excited, it goes under contract, then they realize and they fall out. So another thing is, in that listing, shoot them straight, let them know the situation. Otherwise, you're just going to go through that emotional roller coaster again and again and again. So you want someone who goes under contract and already knows it's landlocked. There's no confusion about it.
And that's my concern. Like, again, it's been under contract twice already, and so it's like the third time. I'm not going to be excited about it. My last question is, what would you do? Obviously, I know you're not a lawyer, but have you ever had a situation where you've had a no contingency deal and then they just go AWOL? Because I mean, we've never had that, so I don't.
Yeah, I can't say I ever have had that. I've had it with deals that haven't gone through title. Yeah, small owner finance deals, and that's obviously whatever. For something like this, no, I've never had that happen. That definitely is weird. Sure. But yeah, are you really going to enforce it on something like this? I don't know.
I mean, what would you do in a situation like that? I mean, for this, I don't really care, but like, if it's like $185,000 listing and they just go AWOL, which the likelihood of that happening is low. I just wonder, like, what.
Yeah, I think that like a lot of cases, for bigger properties, I would fight a little harder, right? Yeah. And I think typically what you can do is, if you just flex the notion of litigation, that usually scares people into making something happen, right? Yeah. Would I go like all the way and go the distance? Probably not, because if I have a great deal, it's an asset that I love at a price that I love, and we're getting leads, if this person dicks around and leaves us, I know it will still sell, right? With a property like this, it's a little more tough because that person is your savior. That lead was the one that was going to get you out of this deal, and there's more emotional attachment. For other leads, honestly, like if I have a great property and I'm getting a lot of inbound interest on it, I don't think I would heavily pursue it, although I might scare them, right? I might flex it, but I don't think I would go the distance on it. I just think too, like everyone's a little bit different with how they like to play the litigation game, but just as a rule of thumb, like that's just not like my Hail Mary strategy. I'm much more focused on more opportunities, moving the needle further, as opposed to trying to drill down on one person or one lead or one opportunity. I hear this a lot with guys and gals that are working with sellers that dip out on a contract or don't do what they say they're going to do, and they want to litigate and take it to the next level. And that's just not my style. So I might be a little more quote unquote soft in that regard than others, but that's just not really how I do business.
By doing more deals. So
just doing more deals, man. I'm like, my area of genius is not litigation. I don't know anything about that. What I do know is how to go acquire off-market deals. So let me go focus on that. I had something else I was going to say on this. Oh yeah. So the way I would build out those neighbor letters and even those neighbor texts, and the way I would build out this listing is reframe the fact that this needs an easement. Make that an opportunity. Hey, 12, like whatever 12 acres are selling for out there. Let's say they're selling out for $3,000 an acre, $4,000 an acre. This is your opportunity to get a piece of land in John Henry Parsons, Tennessee, for a quarter of its value. If you're willing to do the legwork, equity from day one, like frame it as a great deal. And for some of our hard to move properties, we'll take that issue and reframe it as a positive and talk about how they're getting equity in a deal. And that resonates. We've had a lot of success with that. So I would try reframing that. I don't hear enough land investors flexing that in their listings. Telling the person, you got to tell them that they're getting a good deal, right? Like a lot of people don't know how to value land. That's why we make money in this business. And so we got to hold their hand and explain it to them. I think it's a really good opportunity to do that here. But yeah, this is, unfortunately, guys, like this is the cost of doing business. This happens. I can't say all the time, but every single year I probably have 3 to 5 deals that fall into this category, and it happens. You live and learn. And you hope you don't repeat the mistakes again.
That's interesting. Sorry, I don't know if we're over, but last thing you said, kind of like flexing the hair that's on the deal. I never thought about that before. So if it's like something that kind of slopes a little bit, or maybe it's a great property in a great area, but it's got a little bit of hair on it, tell them that, like, this is why you're getting it for, I don't know, 60% of the value or whatever it is. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that what a lot of land investors try to do is every deal has something wrong with it in most cases. It's rare that we just get perfect properties. A lot of times land investors try to hide the hair on the deal. People will find out about it sooner rather than later. And you get a lot of false starts. A lot of people look like they're going to buy, then they don't buy. I think it's easier to be transparent and candid from the jump, just so you don't get a lot of tire kickers wasting your team's time or your time. There's also a world where you can frame that in a light where it's actually a value to them, right? I think that I think honestly this is applicable to everything in life. We could take our weaknesses and cast it in a new light and turn it into a positive. And I think it's really easy to do in our listings. And I even train my team on that, right? Our dispo team, when they're talking to buyers, don't hide the ugly side of this property. Talk about it in a way that explains why they're getting a good deal. Something that you'll find in this business, not really for these kinds of properties, but for some like the low end stuff with crazy owner financing terms and whatnot, you get a lot of skepticism. And that it sounds weird. Like people are like, this property's too cheap to be real. This is a scam. You're a scammer. It happens less with higher ticket properties. But if you can educate them on how you got to this price point, I think it's actually, it does a lot for building confidence.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, guys. I know we're a little bit over here on time. Anyone got any other questions before we pop off here? Mike, good to see you, man. Mike, number 2.
You guys too. Quick thing I'm just focused on mail right now, getting some mail this week. And I wondered, like, with where I am, a little rural area, have you ever focused not just on subdivision, but on like a city? So if I'm finding that I'm not finding a lot of subdivisions, but I'm finding I got a lot in the specific city. So I kind of broke them out by.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there at the end, Mike.
Yeah, you ever focus on this down? Prior to this, I would do zip code, right?
Yeah.
And those are ginormous. So what I was trying to do was a little more of the hyper targeting, picking pockets of deals, and even the areas I am right now. I'm kind of in some areas that I've already done a few deals that are similar. So I have my list of like hit all the criteria that we've covered in the course, but then also the ones that are kind of more opportunity because they're just similar to what I've done. And I'm finding where those ones are to find subdivisions in pockets. So I'm again, I'm going by the city. I wonder if that's like something you've done before.
Cool. So just so I understand it correctly, you're looking at subdivisions within the city, or are you looking at rural subdivisions and getting prices from the closest city?
It's not really, I mean, I don't see subdivisions on the listing, so I'm looking at Redfin and I'm digging a little deeper, but I can see on the map they're all in the same general locale and got similar characteristics of the property. So that's kind of how I'm doing it, but I'm not actually seeing like here's Pine Ridge subdivision and I can find the plat map and I can understand what the different pricing and then the differences within the community. So I'm not getting that information. So
okay, yeah. So I would say I've worked in you couldn't even qualify them as cities, rural towns maybe, and some of my best deals have happened in these population 2,000, 5,000 type towns. And these are usually not classic infill. These are more rural infill, which I do like. If we're looking at like a city, we're doing infill, not my
Sorry,
area.
I mean that's what I mean. I mean rural infill. I'm these are very like population density of like 24 kind of thing. They're low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had great luck with that. I have nothing against going after, call them towns, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, if you're having a hard time finding subdivisions and that's what you're using as the guiding light to find subdivisions, I think you'll be missing a lot. That's also outside of towns, but I wouldn't shy away from building out mailers that are in towns. There's a little town in Texas that is like, just every time I buy land there, just crushes. And there's stuff that's as small as an acre and stuff we sold a 40 acre in there. So there's a pretty wide spread of land out there. And honestly, at this point, like there's not even that many subdivisions there. We just started to price out the whole town because we have a pretty good read on prices. So yeah, would not shy away from that. I think that in terms of finding subdivisions, I don't necessarily go and look for subdivisions per se. I go and look for where's the activity, and then often where there's these clusters will be in some kind of subdivision. And the way I suss out the subdivisions is not by finding plat maps or anything like that. I'll start finding like, God, there's all these little deals selling here. I'll go pull the legal description and that will inform me if there is a subdivision or not. But it doesn't have to be in a subdivision. Sometimes there's just tight groupings of homogeneous land. That's not a technical subdivision,
right?
That's where the action's happening. But by no means, rural, I think implies like it's in the middle of nowhere. There's no town next to it. If it's in a town, could be a gold mine. Which makes a lot of sense, right? Because there's just going to be more interest.
That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm following the dots. What I am seeing, so I'm pulling basically all the comps because there's not a ton in the area anyway. And when I break them down, I can see that like, oh, these 20 are in a specific. They have a city. They're probably outside the outskirts of the city. And then I see that I've got a few others. Looking at the housing prices, I know there are differences between those certain areas of that county. However, in certain parts of that, I don't have enough comp, if that makes sense. So I'm just going with where I have the most, even though I know there's some differences between those individual areas.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine. And if you want to bring any of those markets to our call on Wednesdays, if you want us to get some eyes on it, we'd be happy to go through and look at them. But I would say there's no reason that going after towns or small cities would present any issues. I think for us, just like as a rule of thumb, it has nothing to do with cities or towns. It could even be rural, but just small acreage that has one use case of building a house on it right now. It's not something I would want to hold on to necessarily.
Yeah.
Of course, the data will tell you, right? There's definitely exceptions to that rule. So I would just be cautious if that's the case. But I'm buying a lot right now. That's 6 acres, but it's in a town. It's actually a very interesting town. It's in a town that I think it has like, I don't know, 400 people that live in it. It's tiny, but this is an old historic town. It was one of the first towns in Texas, and it's like this overly romanticized place where people go on the weekends to look at the historic buildings. And we're the only 6 acre lot in the whole town. I actually don't even know how we came across this deal, to be honest. Love stuff like that. Love it, love it, love it. And it's not in a classic subdivision per se, but the whole town is kind of its own subdivision. So don't shy away from it.
I'm in between 2 and 40 acres, and this is a very small area, so there's a lot of records available. Last thing for me is just on pricing. I've got a 3 acre that I buy for 50 and sell for 60. It's a pretty good spread between there. Listed with an agent. It's been 30 days now. We did have a buyer after 14. That individual pulled out after signing a contract and everything, but whatever. So I'm just wondering, like, it's a snow state, and we did there was a bit of a snowstorm last week.
Yeah.
I can still see there's some engagement on Zillow. I was wondering, when should I start dropping the price?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we've got a price dropping module that goes in the program that goes over our price dropping strategy. I think price dropping is important. I do think that when it comes to the seasonality of markets, though, I don't want to get overzealous and start just racing to the bottom. I don't know what state it's in, and this could range slightly, but you're not too far out from being out of the doldrums and kind of getting that reinvigorated interest again. So if you got enough time on your side, are you self-funding it or you got a JV partner?
No, I got a JV partner on that. Really great terms. He's cool with waiting a bit. The real is like, we can hang for a bit. I'm cool with that too. So
yeah, I would hang out for a bit. I think if you're still getting engagement in the dead of winter and you had someone go under contract at the worst time of year, you're groovy, right? Now, if you're in like the normal season per se, then there is a cadence that we follow. And so what we do is we check all of our stats on a 2-week basis and then make decisions from there. We do very small incremental price drops. We do 2 price drops. Third price drop is going to be back to our original list price and stair step again. Unless it warrants a big price drop because something changed in the market or fill in the blank or something new comes up about the property. But yeah, if you're still getting, are you still getting leads on it?
Yeah, he's getting some calls. Like I said, it was no phone last week, so it's been kind of slow. But hopefully, we're going to regroup midweek here and see how, or tomorrow, and we'll see how things are.
I think it's a really positive indication. If you're in the worst time of the year, if you're still getting, I mean, January is like notoriously like the worst winter month in my opinion, and if you're still getting interest, you're in a good spot.
Cool.
Yeah. Sweet, y'all. Well, good seeing everyone. Appreciate you guys coming to today's call. And just so everyone knows, Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. PST. That's our next call this week. And hope to see everyone there.
Awesome. Thank you, Sumner.
Thanks.
You guys. Bye.
Thank you.